Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly with AMS. We are outside Asbury Lanes about to have a sit-down conversation with the one and only Austin Meade. Thanks for being with us, Austin. Let's jump right in. So you released a single back in May, right? Blackout?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
That was there's a lot of new stuff on that one. So the song itself just came from me just struggling with myself, having too good of a time all the time type of thing. I feel like there's like so many times where you go out to have a good time with your friends, and then it's always like the joke, like, oh yeah, you're gonna have a couple beers, and then sometimes you have like 15. But yeah, whenever you're on the road and touring this much, it's like every day kind of becomes a party. So it feels like you do that like all the time, and sometimes it gets hard to balance, between just keeping your shit together when you have to stay like on top of everything because you're always traveling to different states and different cities. So One morning I just woke up and I was like, damn it, I went straight back to Blackout. I know I had a writing session that day. We were in Nashville. Me and Willie were with two other guys. Andrew Bayless, he's a producer, and his buddy Dan, great songwriter. And so I just had these phrases in my head that I kind of feel like embodied who I am or who I was in the moment, which was like, role model, rain cloud, straight jacket, dropout. Like I like short sayings that mean a lot more than just those two or three words. And I had like a handful of those, and the guys were really digging that. And I was actually listening to a lot of Alan Stone at the time. So I know that doesn't sound like an Alan Stone song at all, but I had this melody in my head. I was in the shower and I just kept singing to myself, straight back to Blackout. And then it ended up working its way into the song. And kind of just took like a turn for rock and roll, And I was just really interested in the way that we had so many like taglines in there that you could put on a t-shirt, or you could like stand behind like a little phrase, even like the talk of my hometown type thing. And the verses are really just honest, keep hearing I'm the best at being such a mess, dead last, first class disappointment. So it was a lot of fun to write. There's the word lyrical side of it, and then the musical side of it. We really took a different like approach on guitars and stuff this time. We went with like heavier, almost like metal-esque sounding guitars, but I wanted the song to sound like it could also be in like a European dance club, like red light district type thing, which is kind of how like the synth bass part starts the song, because I really wanted like almost like a dance club type feel to it. So I think it lives somewhere between like some type of dance pop and rock, So I don't know.
Lots of genre fusion there.
Definitely.
Who do you feel like are some of your biggest influences across different genres?
Well, I usually get them tattooed on my leg. Let's see, who do I got today? A lot of Paramore, Audio Slave, big Mac Miller fan, Kings of Leon, Arctic Monkeys, love White Snake. This one's a Deftones one up here. Listen to those guys a lot. This year's been pretty crazy. We got to play a couple festivals. We got to play Louder Than Life Fest and Aftershock in Sacramento. Louder Than Life was in Louisville. We did Welcome to Rockville in Daytona. And at one of them, I was just sitting backstage like, what the hell is going on with my life? Like all of a sudden we're playing the same stages as like Limp Bizkit, and I mean, I've been looking up to those guys for a long time, just because their attitude of like, they don't give a shit. They just kind of do their own thing. And, their whole new record, it's got that song Dad Vibes, which is, hits me in the heart now, new dad. But playing with guys like that is like, holy crap. We got to do the same stage as Pussifer and then Tool. So it was like, to me, it didn't feel real until like after the moment. You're just like working, doing your thing, staying as busy as possible, and then you're like, oh shit, okay, we just did like literally the same stage as Metallica, or that happened 2 years ago at Rockville. And I guess I'm just getting lucky. I don't know. I got people that really believe in what we're doing, and I'm just trying to say yes to every opportunity that I get, just because a man only gets so many opportunities, and I feel like you could like stay at home and say no to a lot of things because it's hard work to stay touring. It really is. It's like not always fun, but I feel like if you say yes to as many opportunities as possible, they lead to like bigger and better opportunities all the time. And if I wouldn't have said yes to like a couple of really shitty gigs, then I probably would have never gotten, to this tour today,
Yeah, totally.
or any of those festivals. So I just try to stay working.
Yeah,
Like, just,
you gotta work your way up.
yeah.
How do you feel like having a kid is going to affect touring and all those opportunities for you going forward?
So yeah, I got little man on the road for the last couple weeks. It's definitely different. Like today we pulled up and, I was trying to help the bus back in and, figure out where we were plugging in and parking and everything. And then, he just literally has a blowout. And so I gotta go pick him up like this while he's just, covered in it, and take him to a sink or shower. So those things definitely put life on hold for a minute. Like I usually get super oriented and like I gotta do this, look like a squirrel running around. But when something like that happens with a kid, you're like, okay, I've got to stop everything.
Regroup, yeah.
I've got to focus on this. He's really good. But if he's freaking out and having like, a breakdown or like nothing else can matter at the moment, because you could be in a conversation and if your kid is literally screaming like right there, like nobody's going to keep the conversation going. They're like, you're going to do something about this thing? It's a lot different than having a dog. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
I've had a lot of dogs. But yeah, my wife's a superstar, dude. It's really awesome. It's been fun to have them out. I think that there will be more moments of me like thinking about if I really want to go do shit that doesn't matter, Like I know I just said say yes to every opportunity, and to me that also means saying yes to some family opportunities now, which in the past I'd be like, hey, I gotta miss a wedding or Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it is because I got a gig, and now maybe that saying yes to everything, maybe some of that now for me is going to be like family oriented a little bit more. Which may take a turn for the writing too, because I feel like my writing has always been like self-loathing almost. My first record was called Chief of the Sinners. The one that kind of allowed us to tour for a living is called Black Sheep, and there's a lot of like kind of beating yourself up in that record. And then Abstract Art of an Unstable Mind was the most recent record. There's songs on there like Loser Mentality, Varsity Type, Violation Delight, Center of the City. Just there's a lot of songs on there that are just about knowing that you can be a better person and wanting to be a better person and working towards that, but that like I'm always really competitive with everything that I do, so maybe I'm like competing with myself to just always try to get better at this or that, which I don't know if I'm successfully doing that. I don't know. I'm successfully having a good time, I can tell you that, like this last year. But man, I could go off on that for a while. I think though that like now with like the kid and everything is like changing in my life. I just turned 30, so maybe there will be like a bit of a different attitude when writing. I really
less self-loathing there.
Maybe so. I like to write about like the moments that hurt the most. Mm-hmm. There's a song called Dial Tone off the latest record that it's one of my favorites off there. It was actually the first song that we wrote for the whole Abstract Art record, and the chorus of that, which is what all of the rest of the lyrics on the record are based off of, it says, memories of when we were young, before the alcohol and the drugs, do you ever think about how it was when I was somebody you loved? So like for me, when those lyrics just like fell out of the sky somehow and landed in my brain, I was like, okay, I have to make an entire record that for me captures that feeling of the journey from like having a great time in life and wishing you were older, and then all of a sudden like you get older and you're like, holy shit, let me go back. So I try to capture that. And like I mentioned, just like the moments that hurt a lot, like the way that I get through that is usually by writing it down and singing it. So there's just been a lot of a lot of things that I tried to like let live in that moment of that song, which sometimes makes them hard to sing, you know, because if you're really feeling it that night, you're like, I'm back in the same spot when I was writing this. Like, I want to cry on stage.
Right, and that's grueling on tour. If you're on tour every day, up there feeling like you're gonna cry.
Yeah, it's not every day. It's just like some days that if you're thinking about somebody, you know, whether, you know, family member or somebody that you don't have around anymore, it's like, shit, I wrote this song about this moment, and now I, you know, go back and relive this moment, which is a beautiful thing. But for me, that's kind of like how I deal with emotions.
Yeah, you got to process it somehow.
That was a long answer, but yeah.
Is that common for you to feel like your lyrics are just like arriving in your head, like they're delivered to you? Like you mentioned, just like the lyrics showed up in my head.
Yeah, I don't know what causes it. I mean, there are some times when I'm sitting and I just have something fall out of the sky, and I'm like, it could be 3 words, it could be 2 words, and I could be like, ooh, I'm gonna write an entire song about the feeling of these 2 words. Which I'll make a quick example here. Violation Delight is a song off of the Abstract Art record. And I just really liked how I had never heard those 2 words beside each other before. Like violation, delight. So it's like, violation sounds negative, right? And it seems like you might be scared of that. But delight is the complete opposite. It's like this super bright word. Like, I don't usually use the word delight in my vocabulary. So for me, like, violation delight was the act of calling back your ex's best friend to get back at them, you know, and going down that like terrible revenge. Rabbit hole. Oh yeah, revenge, right, exactly. But violation delight sounded a lot more interesting to me than revenge, right? So that song is about just remembering, it says, I just remember all the good old times, Ferris wheels, funnel cakes, and a carny prize. It's about like going to a county fair with like you know, a girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, and then later on you're like, okay, how can I get back at this person? Oh, I'm gonna call their best friend up, and I'm gonna see if I can cause some shit, which is a terrible thing to do, but a funny like scene to live out in a movie or a TV show. And it's not to say that like when those things pop in my head, it's always just that shallow shit. There's a lot of deeper stuff. There's a song called "Hurt You to Hear This," and it's off the Black Sheep record. And for me, "Hurt You to Hear This" is like, it's hurting me. It's going to hurt the person that, you know, left me behind or said I wasn't good enough or didn't have anything to do with my life, whatever. It's going to hurt them when they hear that song, like on the radio, or when they hear that song at a club and they're like, oh shit, I know who this is. I didn't believe in this person. And then, I don't know, it's almost like that little revenge, that little sweet, you know.
Just like getting back at him a little bit.
Yeah, but I like to put that in a song rather, like, I'm not going to live out with that kind of hate. I can't have the hate in my heart, you know what I mean? But I let it out in the song. I always think about the Joe Dirt, you know, quote. It's like, this is where you want to be when Jesus comes back. So I just put it in the song and let it live there.
I always say writing is for your worst thoughts.
Yes.
Just put them there and don't act on them.
Yeah, for sure. My wife's always like, so this song you wrote, what's that one about? I'm like, it's a character, honey. It's like, not,
you don't need to know.
No, it's a lot of them, like on the last record, I had 3 or 4 characters that I wrote every single song about that kind of lived in my head. And so I would just went off the deep end with these characters, whether it was a good person or a bad person. And I'm sure some of those lyrics, she's like, oh God. I mean, even with Happier Alone, that's like still our biggest song. I just thought that was such a honest statement. Like, I wrote that song really and truly to tell her, like, at the beginning of our relationship, like, hey, you might be happier with a guy that has a 9-to-5 or something, you know, than I'm going to be, my ass is like touring all the time. So it's just like a very honest moment of, you know, you could be happier alone without all the shit that I'm going to bring into your life. I'm just telling you that now. And if you don't want to deal with it, that's okay. But, yeah, she's still here and now we have a kid. So good on her. Yeah.
So you've talked a lot about the lyrical inspiration. Does the music come with the lyrics for you? Do you hear those like at the same time? Or do you think about how to marry them together afterwards?
Yeah, it changes per song for sure. I write a lot with David Willey, our lead guitar player. He's been with me for like 6 or 7 years. And so sometimes he'll send me a little memo of a riff that he has. And I don't know, over 50% of the time I'll be like, man, I don't know that necessarily lining up with any ideas I have, but whenever he has something, or sometimes I have a simple progression that's like 3 chords, like Varsity Type is literally 3 or 4 chords, the same progression the entire song. So is Happier Alone. And I feel like the lyric has to match the mood of the song at all times. And it usually starts for us with guitar, sometimes bass. The melody can kind of shift and change depending on where it's at. But like that initial, like the heart of the guitar riff, whatever we base most of the song around, which sometimes remains the main riff. Sometimes that riff that we thought was going to be the entire song, sometimes that just turns into like the bridge or the solo, you know, like that maybe is a really powerful moment. But I have to find where the intention of the lyrics and the intention of the feeling of the lyrics in my head really matches how I feel when I hear that guitar. And then usually we go down that road of marrying them. And then all kinds of crazy shit happens after that, because we could be like, oh, let's take it into some crazy out of key minor bullshit, you know? So it usually depends on the writing session too. If it's like an early day and we're in the morning and I'm like drinking 10 coffees, then I'm going to be bouncing all over the place, and it's probably going to be like a higher tempo, like sporadic guitar stuff. And then sometimes at night, you know, if I'm like, okay, I'm going to have some drinks or get super stoned, and then just sometimes we write like some really spacey stuff then. So it is wild though to think that I can just do that and then like this is a career now. I don't know how that happened. That's like a weird thing, because you write songs in your bedroom and then I don't know, some people write songs in their bedroom forever. And honestly, that's usually like the most fun part, is like writing and recording for me, because that's like, oh my God, I created this thing.
Right.
And I don't know, I feel like just even talking to you guys, being here, we're here in, you know, Asbury Park at this awesome venue. I don't know how I went from like writing in my bedroom in college to touring the country like nationally. I don't know, man. I graduated in 2015 and I was just playing like Mexican food restaurants on Tuesday nights for happy hour, and nobody was paying attention, but they'd give me like a couple beers and a couple $100. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm paying for rent, paying for some tuition. I'm getting enchiladas. I'm in on this. And now we're like, just still going somehow.
Is it everything it's chalked up to be? Has it lived up to the rock star hype being on tour?
It can, if you really want to lose control, you know, but I think in order to keep your shit together at the level that we're at, like I still am very hands-on with everything. So, I mean, like the lighting carts that we have, I built those with a couple of friends of ours, and designing those things or having people around you that like include you in the design of the stage, rather than just showing up and you're like, oh, this is my stage. This is my stage.
Right.
Here. Or you just show up and you're like, oh, here's the gear you're using. Like, no, I know all the gear that we're using. I know where it's going to go on the stage and how everything routes. And to me, that's like, it like fills a big part of my brain that probably could be doing like the rock star thing of just, you know, always going out and finding a strip club and some drugs. But, you know, I got too much gear in my brain right now.
Yeah. I gotta focus on the creative stuff. Yeah. What gear is your favorite to use as of now?
As far as like overall gear, we finally got our own soundboard this year. We got a SQ5, and it is unbelievable how much stress that has like taken off of my shoulders, because when you show up to a new venue every night, even if you have your own sound guy, like he's got to reprogram everything. He's got to build your scene. He's got to build your monitors. He's got to do gain structures. He's got to figure out all the verbs and everything that you need. And if you have your own board, which is like, we've just been doing this couple months with it. It's like you show up, as long as he's got his drive lines and knows where his fills are at, it's like, all right, boys, we're good to go. It turns sound check from like an hour long ordeal to like maybe 15 minutes.
That's awesome.
So you save so much time, and you feel less stressed, and you look more professional. You sound more professional because your front of house guy knows what's on that board. He knows how to get around the frequencies. He's not like, if something's going crazy and feeding back, he knows how to get to it and get it done. And I don't know how I know this is maybe older technology here, but this whole Cat 5, Cat 6 line running all of the lines to the front, I'm like mind blown because I'm used to running XLRs or like massive fucking snakes to the front that have all the XLRs at the other side. Now you just run like a little telephone cable. You have all of your information in that. I mean, I think we have like a 300-foot Cat 6 line. I'm like, how the hell does all that go down that telephone line and still sound decent on the other end? It blows my mind.
It is crazy.
That's really cool. I also just got into wireless microphones, so we have some of the Shure wireless microphones. That's been a real game changer, like performance-wise for me, because I feel more free on the stage. I can interact with the crowd. I can go to the right side. I can go to the left side. I don't feel like I'm in this box. And, you know, I can put the guitar down for a minute and go pick up the mic. I can run into the crowd. I can crowd surf. I do that a lot. Sometimes I end up crowd surfing to the soundboard, which you can't really do that with a wired mic.
Right.
I mean, you can, but then you end up, it gets unplugged and then you're tripping on everybody. Like even when I go to the left side of the stage, I've got to watch out for all my other guys because they're running back and forth too. So just like the freedom of that has been super sick. I mean, I didn't realize how much fun I was going to have with that. And there's just like something cool about like when I start the set for this tour, I just walk out with the mic in my hand so I can walk out at like the last second and just kind of pop out and be like, what's
like
up,
surprise.
bitches? Yeah. That's been really cool. So yeah, between the wireless mics and the SQ5, that's like really production wise been great. The guitar shit is crazy. It's like another level. I feel like I've kind of taken a step back personally from getting so involved on guitar all the time now because I have two awesome lead players. I still play like 90% of the set on guitar, but I find like 2 or 3 tones that I'm really confident in, and I like just kind of hang out there and let them do all the fancy work. And then I really worry about interaction and like kind of coaching the set through. Like you're like the catcher, you know, you're having to like run the field. And if shit goes wrong, if somebody's tuning, got something going on, I've got to like entertain all of a sudden for 15 seconds while they make a change.
Yeah, you got to perform. Have you ever had any big like horror stories on stage where something went really wrong?
Oh yeah. My biggest fear is like when a room is really boomy or a PA is like hard to hear or our monitors aren't working correctly, because it's really easy on stage behind those speakers to lose the key of the song.
Yeah.
And people out front, they don't know. They just think you suck.
Right.
They have no idea what you're hearing. So once you get into like the whole musical thing, like you may be in a song, let's just say the song is in the key of E. Like you can't hear that E to tell where it's at unless you're born with perfect pitch, which I'm not. I don't know where an E is at until I hear it, right? And so if a room is like making a weird frequency, like reverberation, or the stage feels really boomy, then like I get lost sometimes and I can't find the key of the song, and then I have to like run to a guitar amp to find out where that actual note is. So that's definitely my biggest fear. It's happened to me a couple times on stage. Not in a while. A lot of it's confidence too. A lot of it's like knowing the muscle memory of I've sang these songs so many times. I know right around where the key is supposed to be. Like I can feel if I'm far off from it. Yeah. But I also like, I don't want it to sound bad ever, even for like 2 seconds.
Yeah,
so
of course.
I'm just like super anal about making sure that I can hear where the key's at. And you fight that with every room. That's part of touring, man. Like sometimes you're on these big festival stages, sometimes you can't hear the PA behind it at all because you're outdoors.
Yeah.
And they're massive PAs. I mean, you're talking about pushing sound out to like 30, 40,000 people. But if you're behind the speakers, you could have a conversation like this. It blows my mind. But then you play a smaller club, you've got a brick wall that's shooting back at you. You're going to hear that snare like twice.
Right.
So you got to...
It's disorienting, yeah.
You got to know where you're at and not get too in your head about it. But yeah, there's been a couple of times where I've like lost the key of the song. It actually happened to me back in May. I was singing Blackout, and we were on the Godsmack tour at Mohegan Sun Arena, and somewhere up by Boston, I think. And yeah, it's a big ass hockey arena. So there's all these crazy noises that are bouncing off of everything, and our in-ear frequencies were going crazy. So I just kept hearing pops. I pulled them out, And then I realized when I pulled them out, I was like, oh I don't know what key the song is in right now, because a lot of our songs are in weird keys. This producer that we've been working with, he tells me that I confuse him, because even if you try to tune up your vocals a little bit, you have to know what key you're singing in.
Yeah.
Sometimes I sing in like, where like the harmony should be instead of the melody. So I guess that with their like vocal editing process, because sometimes it thinks it's supposed
like
to go
intervallically, it's
yeah. Which I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just singing. But I guess the people that know the shit are like confused by what I do sometimes.
That's maybe a good sign, I guess. You're doing something unconventional.
Right. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know.
You shot a music video for Blackout, right?
Yeah.
What was that process like?
I really love the movie Fight Club, and I wanted to like recreate a lot of my favorite
Boxing,
scenes from Fight
yeah.
Club. So I just went back and watched that a bunch, and I feel like Blackout was a very fitting song for Fight Club, because he doesn't realize that he's the same guy, you know? So that, and it had like the whole like punk vibe, like 90s, early 2000s, and it was a big movie from my childhood. So all my videos, I like to reference like some of my favorite movies, and that was one where I was like, dude, we're doing one that's like all Fight Club. Let's just do all the Fight Club scenes that I think are really important. And it was I thought it turned out really well. I mean,
Did you do fight choreography for it?
I didn't have to fight. I was just in the back. Yeah, we had a guy there that was like a professional actor / fighter, and so he actually showed up, and he didn't know he was supposed to have somebody else with him to fight. So we had to pull an extra. The guy that's actually getting beat up, he did a great job. He didn't learn any of those moves till the day.
Oh my God.
of the shoot. I was stressing out.
That's so
bad.
stressful.
Yeah, but they did a great job. Sometimes you just gotta like sit back and know that it's gonna be taken care of. I mean, at the end of the day, like, again, all I have to worry about is if my kid shits his pants, I gotta make sure he's clean and make sure like maintenance is okay and everybody's safe. And then I try not to fret about the little shit anymore. Like, you'll lose your mind.
Yeah, you do. You've managed to put out a lot of music within a pretty short span of time. How have you been so prolific?
I think I'm just insane. And so if I'm not touring, I go home and I immediately go into like panic mode. After like day 2.5 or day 3, I'm in immediate panic mode. I'm calling my manager saying, why aren't we on the road? What are we doing? What's next? What am I supposed to do? Like, I have to stay busy. And I think that comes from just like, I mean, my dad's always working. My grandpa was like known for working harder than every single person around him and in the family. And though our types of work may be different, right? You know, my grandfather was an electrician and just built a lot of things. And I might not be like that exact type of work, but I'm always going, doing, working, you know, doing something. And I think it's just something in my family that I got from my dad and my grandfather. So when I go home, I'm like, all right, I got to write another record. What am I doing? You know, and I can't stop thinking about anything other than that. You know, it's hard to write on the road, especially now with like traveling with a dog, a wife, a kid, and there's just a lot of things. So you just try to survive. But then when you go home and you get your lawn mowed and you get your oil changed and you figure out what your schedule might look like for the next couple weeks, then I'm already calling Willie like, all right, you want to come over Tuesday and write like 3 songs? And he'll be like, yeah, I'm going to write 3 songs with you. And sometimes we'll get half of one done, but we were already recording Abstract Art of an Unstable Mind the day that Black Sheep, the record, came out. I have a picture in the studio, like my wife brought us like a celebration cake with the Black Sheep logo on it. And we were in the studio recording Abstract Art. And then when Abstract came out, I already had like 5 or 6 songs for this next record that I was just pumping out. So I am super excited about this next shit. Like, I feel like I'm finally catching a stride and finally like working in an efficient manner. And I'm also like, I'm working with people who aren't scared to like let me do some crazy shit. And it, not that anything before this was ever a bad experience. It's always been awesome. I think there are like certain times in your life when you have to just jump off a cliff and just hope that your parachute works. So we've kind of done that musically for the last 3 records. It's pretty much been all a question mark when we put it out.
Is it hard to not talk about the new stuff if if you're excited about it, but you're still touring for the old stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like tonight we'll play a new song called Freak Show. Obviously we'll play Blackout. Freak Show's unreleased. There's a couple others that are unreleased that I'll throw in the set. There's one called Insignificant Other. It's probably my favorite new one right now. There's another one called Stoner Fantasy, which I love that song. It's so sick. It's hard not to play all those new ones though, because if you go play all new songs, even the people that came to see you were like,
what is this? Yeah.
What the I came here to see Happier Alone and Cave In and Blackout. And, you know, it is weird to look at it from the other side, because as a fan of people, like if I go see like Paramore, I want to hear him sing like All I Wanted. And, you know, they're old records, but I'm sure they have like 800 new songs that they love performing, and they're probably a better representation of who they are now. So I always wondered how bands like, you know, U2 and the Stones, it's like even like Coldplay, they have so many massive songs from when like I was a kid or before I was even born. They're still touring playing those.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. So that's like an ego thing. You got to kind of put away your own ego, even though I think my old songs suck a lot of times. Like
most people do. Yeah.
My first record, and it's nothing to do with anybody else on that record or anybody I worked with. It's like I feel like I wasn't nearly the artist or lyricist that I've learned to be now, and I hope to feel the same way about my current stuff when I put out my next record. Like, yeah, that last record, that was okay, but
you're evolving, you're growing. Yeah.
So we just stay writing, literally stay writing, stay busy. Any off day, we go record, and that's like, once it's recorded, then it's like in the other people's hands, like the mixers and the producers, and I'm giving feedback every step of the way, but they can do that while I'm fucking driving to Canada, you know? So you can kind of, if you get everything pedaling at the same time, then you're like making progress in the recording scene while also making progress touring and hoping to not kill yourself along the way.
That's what we can hope for. Thank you so much for coming here and talking to me. This has been an enlightening experience. Thank you to Austin, and thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this.